So my question for you today is, what are your fingerprint needs and how might knowing what they are help you in life? So each of us has around 2 to 5-ish fingerprint needs. These are needs that we have a history with. They're ones that affect us not helpfully today, and knowing what they are can be a super tool for doing life differently in the present. So where do they come from? So classically, these are needs that come from early on in our lives and from a parent or carer who, with the best will in the world, was unable to meet particular needs and was unable to meet them again and again and again, so that we had an experience of a need being chronically unmet. For example, if you had a caretaker who always needed to be right, then you might well have grown up with an exaggerated need to be heard and to be respected. If you had parents who rarely celebrated you, then one of your fingerprint needs might have been around recognition and being seen. Let me give you an example from my own life. One of my fingerprint needs, for example, is respect. So yesterday I had a phone conversation which I found extremely difficult and painful, actually. It was with a tradesperson who had quoted for a piece of work on my new flat. I couldn't see how the quote was fair and I wanted to challenge it. Now, this conversation will be tricky for many people. Challenge is tricky. But what's different for me in this case is that because a fingerprint need is involved, my need for respect, knowing that my perspective matters and is valid, in the face of the experience of kind of being shut down, I had a really strong emotional reaction, much more than many other people might have felt. For me, it's like a cold wave in this case through my whole torso. It's a feeling I associate with shame and embarrassment and getting it wrong. And I can almost sense my brain indeed about to start up with messages about, you're getting this wrong, you're not listening properly, you should be able to be fairer to the other person, and so on. Now, if I'm not paying attention to that, two things can happen which you might recognise around your own fingerprint needs. One is that I retreat and I give in, so I don't speak up for myself. The other is that I get angry and I cease to hear the other person's perspective alongside my own, because my own case becomes so vocal and laden with heavy emotion. Knowing that my fingerprint need for respect had been touched on helped me to play the conversation much better. So internally, I reminded myself that I know this reaction. It's a fingerprint reaction with old emotions being stirred up. It's a small part of myself trying to hijack the conversation unconsciously. What I do then is I just tell myself that I will deal with any judgmental thoughts from my brain later, and that what I need to do now is just recognise and hold the part of myself that wants respect. Of course that's the case, and of course it's a stronger reaction than for many. Then I can do my best to really speak for myself in the conversation, but in a way which also allows me to explore what's going on for the other person. And indeed, I came out with a much better outcome than I imagine I otherwise would have done. So if you want to explore your fingerprint needs, one way is to have a needs list. You can download one from my website, or there's one in the book. And next time you get triggered to a big emotion which feels disproportionate to what's going on in the present, so you might notice anger or shame or anxiety. If that feels overwhelming and like you know it of old, then you can look at the needs list, and whilst you're in touch with those tricky feelings, see if there's one or two needs which particularly strongly jump out at you, and then start like a detective to look at those needs and where they're playing out in the rest of your life. I hope you enjoyed this video.